She wanted to be marked as a sex slave for her boyfriend. I saved her from that life, but she hated me for it. My roommate's boyfriend demanded she get a succubus grass tattooed right above her crotch. I tried to warn her. That symbol marks you as nothing but an intimate relation slave. She listened, dumped him, and dodged a bullet. But later, she found out her ex was a filthy rich trust fund kid. Regret drove her insane. She blamed me for her single status, drugged me, stripped me, and tattooed that humiliating crest all over my body before driving me to self-harm. Riley, look, isn't this design just gorgeous? My roommate, Jessica, shoved her phone screen right in my face, showing off a bright neon pink design. My boyfriend wants me to go get inked with him. He explicitly recommended this pattern. I recognized that symbol instantly. It was a succubus crest in the darker corners of the underground fetish scene. Women branded this specific sigil right on their lower abdomen, or sometimes in even more intimate places. It wasn't just art, it was a receipt. It meant the wearer was property, a slave. Sure, people preach body autonomy, but the meaning behind that ink was dark. In my past life, I immediately panicked and begged Jessica not to do it. I told her we are the masters of our own destiny, not some guy's pet. I warned her that if they broke up, no decent man would ever look past that stamp. Jessica had listened. She didn't get the tattoo, and she dumped her boyfriend, Brad. She thanked me profusely, calling me her ride or die best friend. But months later, the truth came out. That average-looking loser, Brad, was actually a closeted trust fund baby, a multi-millionaire heir. She tried to crawl back to him, but he was already engaged to someone else. Jessica spiraled. She was filled with hate and regret, and she focused all that venom on me. She spiked my dinner with sleeping pills, and while I was unconscious, she had a tattoo artist cover me from head to toe in those lewd succubus symbols. I couldn't handle the humiliation. I jumped off the roof of our dorm. But if she wants to be someone's slave that badly, who am I to stop her this time? I glanced at the screen and smiled. Honestly, it looks hot. The tattoo featured a pair of lewd, heart-shaped demonic wings, stitched together with smaller symbols that screamed submission. I wondered if Jessica could actually handle the lifestyle that came with that ink. The tattoo was just the entry ticket. The real depravity started after the needles stopped buzzing. Riley, come with me, please. I'm terrified of needles. If you're there holding my hand, I'll feel so much safer. Jessica whined, shaking my arm. I re-quit, pulling my arm back as it burned. A flash of PTSD hit me, the cold memory of my previous death, my shaved head, my skin raw and red covered in ink that marked me as an intimate relations worker. I looked like a monster before I died. I had good intentions then, and look where it got me this time. I wouldn't touch her drama. With a 10-foot pole pass, I've got plans. Besides, Brad is going with you, right? That's his job, I said, turning away. Jessica pouted, her voice raising an octave. Riley, why are you being such a woman? I thought we were best friends. Did you forget who took you to the ER last semester when you had that allergic reaction? I stayed silent, scrolling through Instagram, aiming for indifference. Yes, she took me to the hospital, but she was also the reason I nearly died. Everyone in our sorority house knew I had a severe pollen allergy. We had a strict no flowers rule, but Jessica had brought a massive bouquet of roses into our dorm room. My throat closed up instantly. I was gasping on the floor, turning blue, and she thought I was pranking her. She literally shoved the flowers in my face, telling me to smell the romance. It wasn't until I passed out that she panicked and grabbed the girls next door to help. Bottom line, if it wasn't for her stupidity, I wouldn't have gone into anaphylactic shock. And now she wanted a medal. All right, please. Seeing I wasn't budging, and with Brad blowing up her phone, Jessica grabbed her fake LD bag and slammed the door hard enough to shake the walls. Once she was gone, our other roommate, Chloe, leaned in. Riley, finally, you grew a spine. Our fourth roommate, Sarah, nodded vigorously. Thank God. I thought you were gonna cave and go watch her get branded like cattle. Freshman year, our dorm dynamic was decent. But then, my expensive skincare started vanishing. My brand new La Mer cream would be half empty overnight. Jessica had pulled me aside and whispered that Chloe and Sarah were stealing from me out of jealousy, because my family had money. I exploded. I screamed at Chloe and Sarah, burned those bridges, and isolated myself. It wasn't until much later, hiding in a bathroom stall, that I overheard Jessica bragging on the phone. Riley is so easy to manipulate. I've been using all her high-end feces, told her the other bitches did it, and she bought a hook, line, and sinker. What a foolish person. That was the moment I realized I was dating a snake. I looked at Chloe and Sarah, now feeling a wave of guilt. I had already apologized and explained everything after my rebirth. Memory settled, and don't worry about it, Sarah said, patting my shoulder. Just glad you see her true colors now. I nodded. In this life, Jessica is going to eat the fruit of her own wickedness. That night, Jessica came back humming a tune, clearly in a fantastic mood. Riley Lowe, it's super cute. She marched up to my desk and lifted her shirt. Isn't it amazing? I asked the artist to make it 20% bigger. The neon pink symbol occupied her entire lower abdomen. It was garish, inflamed, and looked incredibly trashy. I gave a dead-eyed stare. Nice. Jessica frowned. What's with the attitude? Riley, I'm your only real friend here. You should appreciate me more. The narcissism was blinding. I'm keeping my distance unless you replace that lawnmower eye cream you stole. And the essence water. Jessica craned her neck, trying to peek into my locked beauty cabinet. You're so stingy. I just borrowed a little. I went back to reading my book. She wasn't touching my stuff ever again. I'd locked everything valuable in a safe box. See? Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She's ignoring you because she wants you to shut up. Take the hint. Jessica, I'm talking to Riley. Not you. You irrelevant skank. Jessica shrieked. Jessica, I said calmly, without looking up. Sarah's right. I'm ignoring you. Go away. Red base. Jessica pointed a finger at me. Just you wait. Riley, one day you'll be begging me for favors when I'm rich. She stormed out again. She didn't come back that night. Probably servicing Brad. The next morning, we had an 8 a.m. lecture. Jessica walked in late with Brad, looking smug. The only empty seats were in the absolute front row, right under the professor's nose. This was ethics class. The professor was a dinosaur. Strict. Old school. Zero tolerance for nonsense. The room was silent. Suddenly, Jessica stood up. Without a word, she started barking, like a dog. Wah, wah. While barking, she began stripping off her clothes. The entire lecture hall froze. The professor jumped so hard his glasses slid down his nose. Silent. Broke into chaos. Is she on drugs? Expression of surprise. That's embarrassing. Look at her boyfriend. He's just watching. If that was my girl, I'd die. Jessica didn't stop. She stripped down to a thin camisole, barking rhythmically. But when her hands went to the hem of the shirt, she hesitated. She turned to look at Brad. Brad sat there, legs spread, face completely blank, hold like he was watching a TV show. He was bored with the professor. Slammed his book down. You young lady, have you no shame? Jessica flinched. She looked at Brad again. Brad didn't move. He just slowly raised his hand and touched his nose. That was the signal. Jessica's eyes went dead. She gripped her shirt again. The professor was turning purple, gasping for air, pointing a shaking finger at her. But before he could scream, his eyes rolled back and he collapsed. Heart attack. The room exploded. People rushed to perform CPR, calling 911, filming on TikTok. In the chaos, Jessica sat down, trembling, but relieved she didn't have to finish stripping. Beside me, Chloe whispered, is she possessed? Who does that? She's not possessed, I muttered. She's housebroken. Now she's trying to make me wear the symbol she wanted, but I'm not the same person I used to be. I leaned back in my seat, watching the paramedics rush in to revive the professor. Across the aisle, Brad stood up, adjusted his expensive leather jacket, and walked out without sparing Jessica a single glance. He hadn't even checked if she was okay. Jessica sat there, her shirt half hiked up, revealing the angry, swollen pink ink of the succubus crest. She looked smaller than usual, the bravado drained out of her. Riley, she whispered, her voice trembling as she crawled toward me after the room had mostly cleared out. Did you see? Brad, he made me do it. He said if I didn't prove my loyalty in public, he'd dump me. He said he has dozens of girls waiting to take my place. I packed my laptop slowly, clicking the latches with a satisfying snap. Sounds like he's a very demanding boyfriend, Jessica. But hey, you said you wanted to be rich. High risk, high reward, right? But he didn't even help me when I was shaking, she cried, grabbing the hem of my jeans. He just watched me like I was a circus animal. I looked down at her hand, then met her eyes, the same eyes that had watched me die in my past life without a shred of remorse. Jessica, you spent months telling me how shallow and stingy I was for wanting to keep my own life. You chose the branding. You chose the master. Don't come to me looking for a refund on a life you bought and paid for. I pulled my leg away and walked out with Chloe and Sarah. Over the next few weeks, the sweet romance Jessica had envisioned turned into a nightmare of escalating demands. Brad wasn't just a trust fund kid. He was a sadist who enjoyed the psychological breaking of women. Jessica began showing up to the dorm with more than just tattoos. She had bruises on her wrists that she tried to cover with expensive bracelets Brad had given her. She was always on her phone, her face pale, jumping every time a notification pinged. He wants me to move into his penthouse, she told us one night, her voice hollow. He says I have to quit school. He says a slave doesn't need an education. Then don't go, Chloe said, not looking up from her homework. Call the police. Get a restraining order. I can't, Jessica wailed. If I leave, he'll take back the car. He'll tell everyone about the things I did, the things he filmed. And I have the mark now. No one else will want me. She looked at me, a flicker of that old, manipulative venom returning to her eyes. Riley, you have money. Give me $50,000. I'll go to a clinic and get the tattoo lasered off. I'll start over. If you were a real friend, you'd save me. I didn't even pause my skincare routine. I was applying a soothing mask, the very one she used to steal. I'm not a real friend, remember? I'm this stingy bitch who isolates people. Besides, I just checked my bank account. I'm saving up for a new car. My body autonomy is very expensive to maintain. The breaking point came a month later. Brad had thrown a massive masquerade party at his family's estate. He invited half the university, including me, Chloe, and Sarah. He sent us VIP invites, clearly wanting an audience for his final act of humiliation. When we arrived, the ballroom was filled with the scent of lilies, the same flowers that had nearly killed me. I wore a high-tech filtration mask designed for gala wear, looking like a cyberpunk ice queen. In the center of the room, on a raised dais, was Jessica. She was dressed in a sheer, floor-length gown that left nothing to the imagination. The neon pink tattoo on her abdomen was glowing under the UV lights. But it wasn't the only mark anymore. Brad stood behind her, holding a hot branding iron, a custom-made tool that matched the succubus crest. Tonight, Brad announced to the cheering crowd of sycophants, Jessica becomes a permanent part of the Davis collection. Jessica looked at the crowd, her eyes searching. She found me. She mouthed the word help. In my past life, this was where I would have screamed. I would have called the police, ruined the party, and taken the blow for her. Instead, I took a sip of my sparkling water through my mask straw and checked my watch. The catering is excellent, isn't it? I remarked to Chloe. The iron touched her skin. The scream that tore through the ballroom was primal. Jessica collapsed, the smell of burning flesh mingling with the lilies. Brad laughed, tossing the iron to a servant. She's officially off the market, boys. The next morning, the news broke. Brad Davis had been arrested, not for the branding, which Jessica had technically consented to in a signed contract he'd forced her to thumbprint, but for a massive drug distribution ring he'd been running through his slaves. Jessica was found in the penthouse, drugged into a stupor, covered in permanent ink and scars that would never fade. Because she had signed those contracts and participated in his performances, she was charged as an accomplice. I visited her in the holding cell before her transfer to a state facility. She was huddled in the corner, her hair matted, the pink tattoo on her stomach now a jagged, blackened scar. She looked at me, and for a second, she looked like she wanted to kill me. You knew, she hissed. You knew what he was. You could have stopped me. I did stop you, Jessica, I said, standing behind the plexiglass. In another life. I begged you. I pleaded with you. I saved your skin and lost my own. And you thanked me by drugging me and marking me for death. Jessica's eyes widened. What are you talking about? Another life. It doesn't matter, I said, leaning in. What matters is that you finally got what you wanted. You're a trust fund kid's darling. You have the mark. You have the notoriety. And the best part? You'll have plenty of time to reflect on it in prison. I pulled a small bottle of La Mer cream out of my bag and set it on the ledge. I brought you a gift. I know how much you like borrowing my things, though I don't think it'll do much for those scars. I walked away as she started to scream, a high, thin sound that was cut off by the heavy steel door.